Hello everyone, my name is Shubham Santosh Pandit and today we are going to discuss about various data types used in Java. Firstly, there are two types in data types. They are primitive data type and non-primitive data type. In primitive data type, uh, firstly there is Boolean, which represents a value only in true or false condition. Then we have character, char for characters, byte, short, int, and long for integers, and float and double for numbers which are in decimal. And also in non-primitive data type there is string and array. As explained, the variable in Java, also the variables is must in Java. So data types are described as follows. Firstly, uh, int minum is equal to 5. The minum is taken as variable, and int is data type used to indicate the value, used to store the value of any number in it. We can store for the pattern used for this is int any variable equal to 5. So 5 is the value stored in the integer, and int is used only for the complete numbers, and for decimal numbers which are in decimal we can use float or double. While using float, the pattern for float is float any variable is equal to the number we have to store in float, that is something like 5.43, and f is written after the number to store the value in float. And the character is used to store the value of single character, that is char any variable equal to the character which should be stored in char. For example, we can take d, and that d is taken into single inverted commas. And then boolean is only used to tell the value is true or false. In boolean only the value of true and false are stored. And how to write a boolean is boolean any variable equal to true or false. We can write anything in between true or false. And then string is used to store any word in it. And how it is written is string any variable equal to, for example, we can take hello, and in string the value should be stored in the string is taken into double inverted commas. As discussed, the data types are divided into two groups. Firstly, primitive. In primitive, the byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean, and char. And non-primitive data type, there are string, array, and classes. Primitive data type. In primitive data type, there are eight primitive data types as discussed, and the size of each data type is as explained. For byte, its size is only 1 byte, and it stores values, store the numbers from -128 to +127. And for short data type, its size is 2 bytes. For int, its size is 4 bytes. For long, its size is 8 byte. Float having the size of 4 byte. Double also having size of 8 byte. Boolean has only 1 bit of size, and character has 2 byte of size. Primitive number types are divided into two groups. Firstly, integer types and then floating point type. Integer type stores whole numbers, positive or negative numbers without any decimal. That is, such as a number can be stored are 123 or minus 483 or minus 27 or 0, without, but only the numbers without decimals can be stored in it. And the value types are byte, short, int and long. Which type you should use depend on the numeric values or size requirement of that software. And floating point types represent two numbers with a fractional part containing one or more decimal. There are only two types, that is float and double. Float and double only store the values which are in the decimal, or we can say in points. Even though there are many numeric types in Java, mostly used for numbers are int and double for and only double for floating numbers. And we'll discuss all integer types broadly. Firstly, byte. The byte data type can store the numbers from minus 128 to 127. This can be used instead of int or other integer types to save the memory when you have certain that the value will within minus 128 to 127. For example, byte, any variable or the value which can be stored between minus 128 to 127, which is 100, and we can print it. In short data type, short data type has the capacity some greater than greater than byte, so we can store the value up to minus 32,000 to plus 32,000. In int data type, we can store the value up to 9 digits from minus to plus. In general, the int data type is preferred data type when we create variable with numeric values. For example, int variable and the value which can be stored in int is, for example, we can take one line and we can print it. The long data type can store whole number in very wider range, that is more than byte, int, short. And this is used when int is not large enough to store the value. Note that we should end the value with an L up to L, and we can print it. And then floating type, we should use the floating point type whenever you need a number with a decimal, such as we can take 9.85 or 4.78, etc. The float data type can store the fractional number from minus to plus in various range, but after writing the number we should take F to complete the statement of float. For example, we can take float data type, then any variable like my number and equal to the value which are going to store is 5.87. After that F is taken and semicolon to complete the statement. Then double data type can store the fractional numbers in the wider range, but we note that we should end the value with d. For example, double variable should be, we can take my_num equal to 11.22, and after that d should be written in before semicolon to complete the statement. So that's all about data type.